Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Cue the fireplace and your favorite fall movie. There's nothing better than a cozy evening at home with a glass of First Leaf wine. First Leaf is a personalized wine club that delivers right to your door. Sounds magical, right? They get to know your favorite tasting notes, which varietals you enjoy, and whether you prefer sweet or dry wines. So in every shipment, you get bottles tailored to your unique palate. Go to tryfirstleaf.com/fall to get your first 6 wines for just $44.95 with free shipping.
Hello guys, welcome to this week's episode of Heavy Metal Tones with me, your podcast host Tony Evans. Before we get on with anything, I would like to say as of today, which is in Australia the 22nd of October 2024, I woke up to the news that, the sad news that Paul Di'Anno has passed away at the age of 66. I think it's all of us who love our heavy metal need to pay some form of respect today. If you don't do it today, you're in the future, and you're listening to this in the future. Just put on some, put on anything really, anything with Di'Anno in it. Put on Killers, Iron Maiden, Battlezone. He's done all sorts of amazing stuff. I met him once, saw him twice. He's a real nice geezer, real East Ender, and I think that it's sad that he's gone. Now it's 2 of the original lineup no longer with us. So for myself today, I want to say a quiet thank you to Paul and to the all the rest of the band, of course, but to Paul to say thank you for all the amazing music that you gave us, and your soul will always be up there, my friend, playing rock and roll with your very much beloved Ramones. They're all there, mate, so you're probably up there now, chugging along with them. Anyway, thanks, mate. And now on for the show. So, this week's episode is going to be about Bathory, the much maligned, much mysterious originators of the black metal scene. Well, Venom obviously created it, but the bands like Bathory took it that one step further. It's a band that for many years I found very enigmatic. I think it's a very good word for it. They never played. They didn't play live very often, very rarely. Produced. They made albums that straddled black metal, and then made album. They then invented the Viking metal genre later on in their career. Sadly, we lost the singer in 2004 to a congenital heart failure, and that's that really underlined their story there and then, sadly. And that singer was Quorthon. Now I often pronounce that wrong. It's Quothon, right? Quorthon, sorry. Its real name was Thomas Borg Fargberg. Now I'm sorry if I really mangled that beautiful name, but I will just call him Quorthon from now on. They formed it in Vällingborg in March of 1983. That's in Sweden, I believe. And it was when Quorthon was 17, playing guitar. By then he was called Ace Shoot, a name he sort of mixed. It was a sort of portmanteau of the Motorhead jokes from their tracks, Ace of Spades and Sharpshooter. Also Ace Frehley, who was a big fan of Kiss. So it was a kind of, sexual innuendo, but rock and roll kind of thing, yeah? He had a small band that he would play around with, and the original other members were he had Melander on bass, he had Jens Ackerland on drums, and Van Mersberg as well, also on drums. Now, they played from school onwards, and they were just playing at that time, sort of, cover songs like Priest and Kiss and so on. And now the name, they came across the name. Apparently, I always thought that the name Bathory was just because they were big Venom fans, and you'll understand when I'll get further into this episode what I mean by that. Out of the Countess Bathory track by Venom, but Quorthon sort of said, quite boldly, no, he didn't ever hear the list. He had never heard Venom up until the point of recording the first album. But then he says later on he listened to the album in 1983. So he had heard it, and I think he did. I think he was influenced. I think he was just trying to make himself a bit of a different history, and that's fine. I don't think there's any problem with that. They went through several name choices, which I thought was some of these I thought were pretty interesting, to be honest with you. Okay, I'll find them now. Thank you. I had to find the page. They considered Nosferatu, which I think is a great name. Nantas, I'm not sure what that is. Mephisto, which I quite like. Elizabeth Bathory and Countess Bathory. I'm glad they stuck with Bathory because it's just a really good way of defining their sound. How am I going to define their sound? Well, it's dark, it's bleak, it's cavernous, it's cacophonous. It's not easy listening. So those that have got this far who think I might listen to the album afterwards, and you're new to metal, or you like your sort of, operatic kind of stuff, then this may not be for you. According to Quorthon, Quorthon. See, I'm going to say the name wrong all the time. They were influenced by bands like the Pistols, by GBH, Extreme Noise Terror. A lot of these oi bands, these sort of like really hardcore punk band, post 77 punk bands. So they were really, really. It was about the speed that you get from that kind of music and the power that you get from that kind of music. So they were very much influenced by the GBH album "Cry Baby," "City Baby Attacked by Rats," and "Ace of Spades" and "Iron Fist" by Motorhead. They were exploited by. They loved the Exploited, the Pistols, Disorder, Anti-Noelli, Kiss, Anticlimax, Exciter, and so on. And this is where I want to throw back to an episode that I did on the 15th of the 5th, 2024, in episode 166, which is the difference between where black metal comes from, black metal and punk, the correlation between the two, and it really does. Run from that really, really well, because when Quorthon went to record, what happened was his dad managed a record label called Typhon Typhon Musica. Hang on, let's just get that. Sorry, Typhon Gramophone. That's Grammafon. And Typhon is Typhon, owned by his father. His father was putting together a Swedish metal compilation album, and he needed it called Scandinavian Metal Attack, which is a brilliant name, right? Which was released in March 1984, but they couldn't get one of the bands pulled out. So his dad, being his dad, said, "Hey, why don't you?" Or I think probably he reached out. He said, "Oh, we can fill that spot." So they released 2 tracks on that album, 2 of them, and they were the most highly sought after songs on that album. People got a lot of fan mail for it. Okay, Sacrifice and Return of the Darkness and Evil. So on the back of that, Typhon said, "Why don't we make a full-blown album?" But by then, all the band, his schoolmates had all moved away. So he had to find other members. So he got he seconded Rickard Bergman from an oi punk band called Stride Cuck on bass, and Stefan Larsson from a punk band called Obsolescus on drums. 2 or 3 weeks they were together before they recorded. They recorded on the 22nd of May 3 tracks: A Witchcraft, Satan My Master, and 2 tracks. Witchcraft and Satan My Master. I can't read my own handwriting. It's terrible these days. And that was the first they recorded with the then permanent lineup. They went to a studio in called Heaven Shone, and it was a converted garage in Stockholm. Now that gives you all you need to know about the sound that the band is going to create. If you create music in it's very hard to create cavernous, garage sounding music in a really well appointed, padded, soundproofed, Neve desk mixed studio, right? But when you make something in a converted garage, it's going to have that. Whether you do the best you can, you're going to get that hollow sound, which this album has, and it's so cavernous. It's quite crazy how dank this album feels. Now, Quorthon's vocals were quoted as harsh, high-pitched, raspy. The lyrics are dark themes about anti-Christian and satanic references. This came to define the genre. I mean, Venom were doing that originally, but this band really came to define that sort of anti-Christian, anti-organized religion, pro-Satanism kind of feel. He did state that, like Venom, they were not Satanists. He used the images to provoke Christianity, and their third and fourth albums are used to convey the difference between organized religion and that and Satanism, and how both of them, both Christianity and Christianity and Satanism, are hocus pocus, and you can't have one without the other. So, quite an intelligent young man. There are people out there, some bands, we know that the Norwegian bands of the 90s, the early 90s, that really took it that little bit too far. Whereas I think Quorthon, for him it was just an image to use to sell records, which is the healthy way to look at it. I mean, Kiss wore demon makeup, but they sung about loving you all night long, baby. They weren't demons. He had a big long tongue and he could spit blood out. Doesn't mean he was a demon. He might be a bit scary, but he wasn't a demon. It's the same with bands like Bathory and things. Venom, another good example. They can frighten them, and as I've told you before in the past on this podcast, that they frightened me when I first heard them at the age of 14. But that was the point of it. I think that's the whole point of his imagery, is to shock and good. I've underlined in red letters his shock. Shock your parents. There's nothing sells records to teenagers more than something to annoy their stuck-up, drafty old parents. They might not be stuck-up, drafty old parents, but that's the way that I think they are seen by their teenagers. I know I was one once. You were one once as well, right? Remember? So it's a whole DIY ethic. It's that connected to punk DIY ethic, and that we come to the album art, right? And this is so DIY punk ethic. It's, for me, it makes me smile every time I think about this. Okay, they went to make the album was originally planned to be called Pentagrammathon, and unfortunately, people kept saying Pentagon, sorry, and they were like, no, we can't have an album called not Pentagon. It's Pentagrammicon. Grammaton, sorry, yeah, I can never read that word. Right, but anyway, pentagrammation. Sorry, I'll get that right one day. So they scrapped it, and I thought, well, we'll call ourselves call the album Bathory. Why not? So they decided to they wanted to picture the cover. What they wanted was art that they couldn't really get what they wanted. It was this is so typical of a young band with not much money, right? It's quite amazing. So they took the pentagram originally and they retouched it, that was the image they were going to use originally, and used it, but retouched it by with an artist by Joseph A. Smith, from the book Witches by Erica Young, a female poet from the US who wrote in the 70s. So it's an image that she used because she's a feminist writer. So it was an image that she used, and Joseph A. Smith was quite a famous artist at that time. So he chose to use that for the front cover. He basically took away the pentagram, and he put on. Now I think it's the goat of Mendes. It's basically the devil, a goat form. I've always known it as the goat of Mendes. I could be wrong. Those people out there know more than me. Be my guest. Let me know. So originally we're going to be called Pentagrammation. People thought it was Pentagon. Said no, I'm going to have that. So changed it. Used some artwork from an obscure 70s poet, by an artist that did that for her. And what he wanted, Quorthon wanted 1,000 copies with the devil in gold embossed on the cover, but it was far too expensive. So he turned around and went, well, okay, make them as close to gold as possible. So the then famous 1,000 copies, which are as rare as hen's teeth, and I, covered one of those, is with a yellow Satan on the front instead of gold. Now, Quorthon hated it, apparently, absolutely hated it. So subsequent copies after were printed with a black and white cover. But what makes it more punky, even punker for me, was that he went and bought some of that, that rub-on Electra set. Those two young kids who don't know what this is, go and ask your older parents or your older siblings what a rub-on Electra set was. It's basically a clear plastic with numbers and letters on. You put it onto paper, rub on the right side, and it puts it onto the paper for you, right? But he, in Old English, but he didn't have enough to buy 2 sets. So the song Necromancy, the second C is replaced with an S. And 2 tracks are missing from the back because he didn't have enough letters to put them on of the back of the record, which is, it's so punk for me. It's amazing. The Damnation and outro was also mistaken and left and missing track. So brilliant. As I said, the album itself is very rare. It's gone into sort of folklore now. It's called the Gule Gitten, or I'm really going to abuse that, which is Swedish for gold goat or yellow goat. Sorry. It was reissued. It has been reissued many times, so you can get the yellow reissue cover. Just the original 1,000 print one. Good luck to you. So, particularly, you'll know it's an original 1,000 print one because, as I said, you will have missing tracks on the back. It took 2 weeks to sell out the first 1,000 pressings. It was repressed in 1991. It runs at 26 minutes and 32 seconds long, so it's not hanging around. It's almost like an EP. In theory, if the tracks weren't so short, because they range from the quickest one being 2 minutes 15 to the longest being 3 minutes 41. So they don't hang around, okay? So we're going to take a break now, and we're going to dive into the cavernous world of Bathory, the dark and loathsome and evil dwelling within it. There's my evil joke. Anyway, time for some ads. Chat to you soon. Bye for now.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
More than 125,000 podcasts trust Acast to connect them with their audience. Your brand can speak to your perfect audience too by advertising with Acast. We're home to the biggest names in podcasting, reaching millions of engaged listeners who can only be accessed through Acast. From true crime to comedy, finance to fitness, your next customer's favorite podcast is an Acast show. Your audience is already here. Speak to them with Acast. Visit go.acast.com/ads to get started today.
Welcome back, guys, to part 2 of Bathory, the enigma of the album and the strangeness of the band that very few people ever saw live. He referred to just be studio work. The album itself, as I said before, has a sort of interesting DIY heritage and start. From a school band that played sort of covers and rock and roll to this new form of parent and teacher shock in black metal. Very much vastly influenced by Venom. When you listen to it sonically, this could be another Venom album, and that is a really that's a real compliment. It's not a slight on them to say, oh, they just copied. No, because the greatest music you get, all art is copy, right? It's the highest form of flattery, to be honestly truthful. So this album starts with it has 2 interesting pieces of music. It has the intro, Storm of Damnation, and the outro. Both of them are instrumental, which again was something that in 1984 and 85 was something that wasn't really done a lot. I mean, Maiden were doing it, but it was coming to the end of it when you used to get a bit of instrumental music on an album. I mean, as of late, recently, Crypta's Echoes of the Soul has 2 brilliant pieces of instrumentals, especially the opening instrumental. So it seems to be the kind of de rigueur of black metal to have that sort of thing back then, and it's nice to have it now. So then we have a track Hades, which is 2 minutes 45, Reaper at 2:44, Necromancy with the wrong spelling at 3:40, Sacrifice at 3:16. Then we flip over to the other side, In Conspiracy with Satan, 2:29, Armageddon, 2:31, Raise the Dead, 3:41, War, 2:15, and then a quick outro called at 22 seconds. And I think it's Wings of Armageddon is the original name of the outro. I'll get to that when we get to it. But what to expect? So you've got home, you've slipped that record out of its inner sleeve, you've taken the CD out of its jewel case, or you've got the cassette, which is available now actually through some really good websites in America that do their whole back catalogue on cassette. And you've put the cassette in, or you've put the record on, or you've put the CD on, whichever way you're choosing to do it. Or you're sitting down and you're on a bus and you're streaming it. Doesn't matter what you're doing. What to expect? Well, at first, we open up with this 3 minutes of quite... it really sets a scene. It's dark, it's eerie, it's spacious for a small 8-track recording. It's got real sense of something coming, the storm is arriving. It has a real sense to it. You can hear the winds and the storm of damnation. You can hear it's almost like bells echoing from a graveyard. It sounds like if you ever had the chance to read Milton's Paradise Lost, when they get to the capital of hell, Pandemonium, that's exactly how I imagine the sound to be. It's that sort of windswept, cavernous, cold, lonely, dire situation that's going on through your head when you listen to it. It really is, actually, as a standalone, a really lovely piece of atmosphere. Could it have been a bit shorter? Yes, possibly, but they probably wanted to pad the record out. It is very, very. If you listen to this and you've got a nervous disposition and you're listening to the dark, it might put you in a position where you don't want to be sitting in the dark to listen to it. To be honest with you, those are new to the black metal genre or a little bit scared of anything in that kind of direction, you might find that it will give you the willies. I think it's a wonderful piece of music, and I love the way that it introduces. Can you call it music? There's bells involved, so yes, it's mainly sound effects, but doesn't matter. It's still doing its job, right? It's still doing its job. And then we move into Hades. Hades is an interesting one. Well, they're all interesting, but Hades, I mean, straight off the bat, it's telling you right out exactly what it is. It's a black metal song. It's about the devil. It's Hades, right? We open up with a little bit of the end of Storm of Damnation, and then we get into this real. All I can say is it's a beautiful din. It sounds like it's so punk. It's so exploited. It's so GBH. It's so extreme noise terror. It just has this sort of I feel like the guitarist, like Quorthon doesn't know he doesn't know where he's going. It's this kind of oh my god, I'm making this noise on this fretboard, but it sounds good, and then bang, in comes this sort of very simple drum set. It doesn't sound like he's not got a big splashy kit. He's quite tight in there, and he's just going for typical blast beat kind drum sound. Very much taken up by Napalm Death, or around the same time. This is just punk wrapped in a satanic package. This is how I'm going to describe it. It's the second wave of punk wrapped in a satanic package. It's the UK's oi exploited sound, their hardcore sound, and it sounds very much like that they've mixed it in a different room. They recorded it down the street in a different room, and the mics are outside in the garden. It has that kind of cavernous, distant sound, which I really love. I can barely hear the bass in this. It's there. It's probably just doing a rudimentary job. Sitting one octave below on the bass line, following the drum beat. It's fine. Doesn't have to be spectacular. This isn't high art. This is youth-fueled, anger-fueled teenage angst wrapped in, a dark satanic wrapping paper, basically. And it has it just moves. It really, really just moves, and it takes the album off brilliantly. It takes it to a great start. And if you close your eyes and you listen carefully and ignore the vocals, I will tell you the lyrics because you can hardly hear them. The way that it plays this sort of like power chord moving from sort of, I think it's A into D. I think around that. I can't hear the. I'm not very good at that, but it's what it sounds like to me. He's scaling with power chords in between cacophonic guitar thrashings. It sounds like Venom. Like, close your eyes, it could be part of a Venom track quite easily. It really has that feel, and I love it for that fact, because you know how much I love Venom, right? So it's just like another version. It's really good. But here are the lyrics for you, because they're quite hard to get hold of. Okay, it says, beyond the mountains where the wind cries out its pain, deserted valleys where the darkness always reigned, where the sunlight is never ever touched the poison ground, where the laugh of the undead children never ever sound, forever wrapped in darkness, for forgotten valleys of Hades, forgotten damned domains where curse and hate collide, where the cold and darkness meet and the truth have turned to lies, where the flame of love growls cold, and its powers never rise, and the hand of death has grasped every form of light, forever wrapped in darkness, the forgotten valleys of Hades. Do you know, that's, for a young man, that's a pretty bloody good lyric, I mean, sadly, unless you listen very carefully, you don't hear it underneath, because he's really putting on a show. He's really putting on this sort of this kind of voice that Immortal used later on. That Abath is known for, a sort of real raspy. He's trying to be evil with it. The difference between him saying Kronos is that Kronos from Venom, he didn't try to do that. It was just his natural singing voice, I think. Whereas Quorthon is really pushing that. And you know what? It's only 2 minutes 45. It hasn't got time for fireworks and frippery. And it is, as the album goes on, the recording gets better. Just a little bit of a spoiler for you. And then we get to Reaper. Right, Reaper is in 2 minutes 45. No, sorry, 2 minutes 44. So 1 second shorter. It doesn't make all the difference, does it? Now, 1 second. Now, this is Reaper. Now, how do I describe Reaper? Well, it doesn't mess around, like it doesn't open slowly, or relatively slowly, like Hades. It goes straight into this dirty, filthy guitar sound. Sounds like it's played on a really cheap guitar on a really cheap amp through a really basic 4 or 8 track recording desk. The one thing that I find endearing about this track is I really like the cymbals, the drumming in this. One of the things I love about hardcore punk is that sort of very fast blast beat drumming with a lot of cymbals going on. Very very simple but very dynamic. And it doesn't change. It basically says the same piece of music all the way through the 2 minutes and 44. The occasional chord change, a little bit of slowing down, but not much. In sort of what they would call the bridge, and I think what I really like about this track is it's the kind of thing that I recorded, the kind of sound that I got recording with my little my brother's little tape deck. You know, the ones where you have to press play and record at the same time, and it had one speaker to the recording with. And I remember playing raucous, heavily distorted guitar through my Orbital Stage 1 amp that I had, like I mentioned last week, I think it was, or the week before. And it was awful. I play it back. I wish I had the cassettes really. It was awful, absolutely awful. But at the time, I bloody loved doing it, and I had so much energy. Being 15, it was 14 or 15 around that time. It was something really exciting, and that's the kind of sound I got. Now, don't be put off by that when you say, "Well, if Tony's awful sound, I'm not listening to it." No. Listen to it, because it's like what I did, but gone to 11, right? And lyrically, I know that people, I want to do this because I started this. I like talking about the lyrics, but if we look into the lyrics of Reaper, I mean, if you can try and strain your ear for it, right? Here we go. So it is. I close your eyes. I send you into vainly dreams. I rain your soul. The night engulf your painful screams. I watch you cry and twist your soul in agony. No prayers can save you now from hell in eternity. I devastate your soul and I lacerate your mind. In sin I sanctify my sword to crush your spine. I'm the Reaper. You're too confused. You can't elude my misty eyes. No need to hang on to your faith in love and life. Whatever I command, your soul obeys my needs. You're like a zombie now, with a soul that burns and bleeds. There's not much left of you. Your soul belongs to me. Nothing can save you now, or set your spirit free. I'm the Reaper, coming to take you. I love the sight of having you down and open wide. The smell of a dead woman's flesh just drives me fucking wild. Sorry. Just when you think you've gone through all that gives you pain, I'm coming back to you to penetrate again. The Reaper. So, very dark, quite graphic, and you can't hear it under the music, which is quite frustrating because You know, that's a kind of lyric that you not that you necessarily want to sing along to, but it's sort of, it's almost lost because it's lost in the mix. And he's obviously spent some time writing those words, and they're very intelligent, although angry and dark, and graphic and a little bit misogynistic. They're very much a part of the music, and you very rarely hear them. Anyway, we're now going to move on to necromancy. That's necromancy with an S, right? Necromancy with an S. Now, this is the first real song on the album where it changes completely. It becomes far more, it slows down. It's much slower. Okay, it's got the bass is much more prominent. It's more tuneful. It's a bit like, it's very much like a Venom track. It's slower, yes. Now, I'm not saying that it's much slower, but you can actually groove, if you want to use that word. And I just did, so you can't stop me here. Whereas the first two tracks are you're like deer in headlights, aren't you? Like, oh my God, what just happened? I don't know what's going on. Oh my God. Imagine hearing that for the first time in 1984. And oh my God. Oh. So, you know, it was really, it's sort of more of a traditional written track. It's got the bass is really taking up a lot of slack where the drums are, because the drums are working very simply, and the guitar is really punctuated. It's not just atonal cacophony. It's got a good rhythm, and it is very Venomy. I'm going to say it's very Venomy. It just has that feel to it, and being one of the longer tracks on the album, I appreciate that, to be honest with you, because I could take 4 minutes of this kind of rhythm. Really, I can. And here Quorthon's vocals are mixed much more forward in the mix. It doesn't change a lot through the entire track. It's very what I mean is that you get different paces and speeds and rhythms, but it's very similar sounding all the way through until you get to what I call the Mantis guitar solo, which is what Mantis does with Venom. It's that kind of it's almost jazz-like insanity. They want to quickly chuck a solo in. Oh, we'll do it at the end. Okay, I've got 3-4 seconds. Here we go. Yeah, it's like it really is atmospheric more than hyperbolic, right? It's more than being. It's not trying to be Van Halen or anyone. He just wants to use it for sheer chaos and atmosphere. And as I said before, the lyric here, his vocal is mixed forward. It's more like they've got, with the first couple of tracks, he's out in the garden singing, and then they're going, okay, come inside, we'll record it on this mic. And now he's mixed more forward in the mix. Now that could be specific. That could be a reason, because it's different sounding music, so they want it to be more trad, as close to trad as Bathory is ever going to be, or they generally did change the way they're recording halfway through. There's no information out there. It's as I said, this band is an enigma. A lot of the information around this band is kept tightly secret to themselves, and unfortunately, as I said, he's passed away in 2004, so there's none of that information that we can even ask him, right? So here are the lyrics for Necromancy. Let's get them up. Here we go. Hail, satanic majesty, tonight we sacrifice. We drink our own blood and blaspheme while the moon is our only light. We whisper our sorcery, the acid takes us high. We sing the songs of mayhem, wingless angel it sounds in soundless flight. Our bodies complete the circle, with blood we draw the signs of hell, chant the force of pandemonium and recite the words of spell. Necromancy, that's the... I gather up the force of darkness to bring damnation, lust and war, demand all heaven's virgins to bend before our horny Lord. Tonight nothing is too sacred. We desecrate and live in sin, inhaling the stench of rotten flesh and burning of winds. Descend from blackened skies on soundless magic wings to spread the words of Satan and live in eternal sin. It's a brilliant lyric. Yes, yes. You might say, Tony, it's really horrible. Yes, it is horrible in a lot of respects, but at the same time, it's also very well written for a young man in a lyrical tone that was not really done before. Venom had done it, but as I said, in King Diamond, I mean, Quorthon got his name supposedly from a book of demons. I've tried finding that demon in the book that they talked about. I went through a lot of websites to try and find it. Some really quite dark ones. Could not find the demon he was talking about. I mean, obviously, as if you have any knowledge of religion and the dark religions, there are many demons with many different names, and I could not find it either way. But it is quite. I mean, from a man who says that this was all just put on, it's very well thought out. He's very well, where would he get that? Where would he get that imagery? I mean, is he watching a lot of horror movies? I mean, music-wise, he's only got one or two really bands that he can reach, as I said, like Venom or Merciful Fate. Not King Diamond, Merciful Fate. So quite intrigued by where he got this stuff. The later bands really went into it and got really deep into it and got the books out and were using imagery and wording and quite vile, in fact, early Norwegian stuff. This is just entertainment for me, but it's very clever, and it's my favorite musical piece on the album, and lyrically I think it's the smartest one. But hey, we don't know. We might dive into another one and I might change my mind. We're coming to the end of side one. It's blistered through. It's sped through. We're now on Sacrifice, the very last track. 3 minutes 16. Right? Now, this sums up the band beautifully to end this album, this side of the album. This, again, as I said, it sounds like they were recording the first two tracks in a different room down the road. The mic was somewhere else. And these last two tracks have really sort of just been upgraded. We open with a fantastic guttural scream from Quorthon, and it has, again, rolling on from necromancy. It's breakneck speed, yes, but it's got some nice guitar flourishes in it, some little bits of legato and arpeggio in it, and it is quite. I mean, it is a so Venom. Oh, I love it. God, I keep saying it. If you want to play, if I was playing a drinking game and had a shot every time I said Venom in this episode, you'd be drunk. But it does. It has that real sound, that real, which I love about it. I really, really do. It sort of feels like visually, if you was to visualize what I was hearing, it sounds like someone. Imagine being on a horse and cart, going fast, whipping the horse and trundling down that path towards the castle of Dracula. That kind of bumpiness, the windsweptness, the bleakness of it. It has that real feel to it. I'll give you the lyric here, right? I summon up the living dead and demons in the skies. I drank from the chalice warm and red and watched the virgin die. Present and ungodly births in holy paradise. I spread eternal dark on earth and raped mother of Christ. Oh, mother of Christ, come on, baby, raise your knife. Welcome, darling, to my sacrifice. Oh, sacrifice. Tie the angel to the altar, sacrifice the Lord to hell. Tell the warm blood torrent, baby, while the moonlight sets the night on spell. I saw the lightning strike in the skies and heard you roar of pain. Oh, lift the knife and strike once more, your blood is mixed with rain. Come on, baby, raise your knife, welcome my darling to my sacrifice. Oh, sacrifice. I summed up the living and dead and demons in the skies. I drank from the chalice warm and red and watched the virgin die. Present an ungodly births in holy paradise. I spread eternal dark on earth and raped mother of Christ. Oh, mother of Christ, come on, baby, raise your knife. Welcome to darling of my sacrifice. Oh, sacrifice. Now, to me, it's quite corny, okay? Obviously, it's about sacrifice. It's easy to chuck in talking about raping of Christ. It's easy to chuck in imagery that is shock. I mean, it is there to shock. There is nothing but this is there to shock. That's it. sell records, shock, sell records, shock. Because it clearly sells records. They sold 1,000 in 2 weeks, yeah. But doesn't make this any less legitimate of a piece of music. In fact, the speed of it, again, it's 3 minutes 16. The longer tracks on this album are better produced. I really enjoy the change of pace from the first two to the last two on this side. And right at the end, when it hits that last cacophonous note, and they all just hold that note and fade out into the distance. It's so operatic. It's what really makes me enjoy lo-fi underground extreme music. It really is. It's the complete antithesis of is that the right word? Antithesis of clean studio rock and roll music. You know, easy listening car driving music, stadium rock. It's the punk in me. It's that deep seated punk in me that just loves the anyone can do it attitude, and who cares what I'm singing about attitude, and I'm gonna say what I want to say attitude, and that's what you get from this band. Anyway, we're now going to turn the tape over, flip the record over, wipe it, put the needle on the groove, or let the CD keep playing if you really want to, or, as I said, listening to it on your streaming platform. And we get side 2, In Conspiracy with Satan. It's 2 minutes and 29. This one is an absolute corker to open up side 2 with. We head straight back into hardcore punk territory with blast beats, hard, cold, angular guitar rhythms, heavy, overdriven bass, and this time again, Quorthon's vocals are mixed below, I think, the music. I think that could be also done because he was probably worried about his vocals and how it was going to sound. It is breathtaking in its way it's mixed the genres, the way it's mixed hardcore punk and the occult and Satanism and shock and Kiss and Venom and Merciful Fate and all that. It's mixed it all together, and you get it straight in this one, straight in Conspiracy with Satan. The lyric is, "The lies of Christ will lose, the ways of hell I choose. I drink the floating blood, defy the fury of God. I have turned my back on Christ, to hell I have sacrificed. I have made love to the pagan queen, the gates of hell I have seen. I heard the angels cry, I watched the witches fly. I saw the clouds of death, slowly blackened the sky. I read the book of spell, I chimed death's ancient bell, and when I die I have a place reserved in hell. In Conspiracy with Satan, I ride the bloodstained goat. I let the brewage float. I have seen the reaper's face. I walk through eternal haze. I have kissed my master's hand. I have seen the children of the damned. I have heard the demons call and seen the thousand virgins fall. I heard the angels cry. I watched witches fly. I saw the clouds of death slowly blackening the sky. I read the book of spell. I chimed death's ancient bell. And when I die, I have a place reserved in hell. In Conspiracy with Satan." End. Now, see, This is what I was trying to say at the beginning. This is yes, there's a lot of school book rhyming in it. Yes, there's a lot of mixed imagery and metaphor. Satan, pagan, Christ, blah blah blah, blood, red sky. There's a lot of stuff that is very schoolbook Satanist, if you know what I mean, like schoolboy Satanist imagery. But it's still written really well. Sadly, again, I will say it again, I wish that I could hear the lyric sung by him. Sometimes you pick up words that come through, sometimes you don't. But as I've said before in this kind of music, extreme metal vocals are often another instrument. If you don't like the way the vocal is being sung, you're too into the clean maidens and priests and accepts and Saxons and all that kind of the world and Metallicas and whatever, then you won't like this. But if you think about the vocal as being a bit like another instrument, you're gonna enjoy it. It's just a shame that he's wrote such a great lyric underneath it, and it is lost slightly. Anyway, it does end with an absolutely cacophonous, angular, attacking, stabbing, angry, fast, furious, evil, all the adjectives and pronouns and whatever you're going to use thrown at it. It is a fearsome couple of seconds of chaos on the guitar, which I absolutely bloody love. Now, moving on to Armageddon. It's 2 minutes 31, and I think you'll find you're going to really, really dig this one. Another blast beat opening, another intense mono sounding piece of music. You know, how that Quorthon gets that sound out of the guitar. It's so clever, right? It's before that sort of tritone, you know, picking. It's just punk straight through and through. This time you can actually hear his vocal a bit better, I have to say. It doesn't hang around. It moves on. It's got that blast beat drumming in it. The bass is just thumping behind, and just occasionally Quorthon's vocals come into the point where you can just pick out things, and it drops off. Now, there are people out there that can say, Tony, I can hear every word he's saying. And you probably can, because this is your genre that you listen to all the time. But for those that who don't, they're going to just pick up words here and there. And I'll give you the lyric to this song, okay? It says, where is it? I swear an oath of blood and tear the virgin's flesh. I gash the wounds of heaven and ride the wings of death. Tonight the cauldrons are filled with the brewage made of hate. Tonight we blaspheme, possessed, we desecrate. Tonight we raise our cups and toast in angels' blood. Salute hell's victory, despise the words of God, Armageddon. Eternal battlefields, no prisoners we take. We rape your sacred souls behind the seven gates. Tonight you will hear the angels' cry of pain, and in the sky you will see the eternal flame. On earth you mortal fools obey the Christian ways, but there is no mighty God to hear your final prayers, Armageddon. Forks of lightning strike in the sky, the sound of thunder rolls. Satan chimes the bell of death and beckon all your souls. Oh, that is... I want to hear that. That lyric is, you know, that lyric in the mouth of, say, coming out of Kronos and Venom, like, heaven's angels realize there is no place they can hide. Tonight the furnace of gates of hell stands open wide. Black witch of beauty hovers around and casts her spells. Tonight's a virgin's womb shall breed a son of hell, Armageddon. Yes, I said you're going to like it. What a great lyric. Holy crap. It honestly, all of the lyrics on this and all the themes could be a Venom album. It could have come straight on a second out of part. It could be Black Metal Part 2. It could be At War with Satan Part 2. It could be, you know, any of those early Venom albums, right? Absolutely brilliant. And then we're going to move on to Raise the Dead. Okay, Raise the Dead. This is another long one at 3 minutes 41. So this does bode well for being a slightly slower. Shall we find out that? Yes, it is. It's probably the most easy listening track on the album, if that's what you want to call easy listening. It opens with these brilliant toming bells and this sort of like a heartbeat, sort of just behind the bells. You can just hear a heartbeat. It's a little faint, but it's there, and it comes in a bit stronger. And it opens with these really long power chords. Considering what you've had from this stuff earlier, where it's just straight in, blah, 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 million miles an hour, put the foot down, mate. This is a real kind of... It is a bit like... I can't say Venom again, but it has that kind of old school New Woman sound. That's what I'm going to say. It has an old school new wave of British heavy metal sound, but a little bit more heavier. All right. So we got that rhythm. It's got a real sort of... It's actually got quite a not a long track. It is the most musical track on the album. I mean, it's all music, isn't it? But it's probably the most easy listening, and that's not an offensive word, phrase. It's the truth. If you want to listen to this album, but are really worried about what I've said before, jump into Raise the Dead and to, as I said before, Necromancy. You'll find those things slightly more palatable to try out first. And the lyric is really good as well, right? Because it's actually got genuinely good sing-along choruses if you got to it. It says, dust to dust. I gasp for air, I scream for sight, and fight against torment and dread. Calling the vengeance I tear as at the lid. Promise to raise from the dead. Raise the dead, raise the dead, raise the dead. That's the chorus. Sing on chorus. Black witch of beauty, all hell's necromancers, give me the powers of hell. Mistress of curse, reapers and vultures, demons stand up and chime the bell. Raise the dead, raise the dead. Hear the infernal legions plea, we shall rise. Suddenly powers come from within, muscles and mind are filled with wrath. I burst out in frenzy, powers of hell. Break up the tomb and the dark, raise the dead. So basically it's about a guy coming back to life, right? But it has that real, it could even be released now. It has that sort of a little bit more it's very forward sounding track. I really think that if you're looking for a track that sums up them without being too chaotic, Raise the Dead's probably that one. I must admit it's the one I listen to. I do like, as I said before, I really, really like Necromancy, but I like Reaper, but I do really enjoy Raise the Dead because it does have that Venom-esque sound, that it's almost, and dare I say this, it's almost easy listening compared to all the rest of the stuff on this album. I love bands that use atmosphere in the opening tracks. I mean, Witchfinder General used to do it really well. Candlemass does it really well. Metallica has done it, as mentioned before. You know, Maiden have done it. Venom have done it. They've all done it. It just really adds a little bit of difference to just going play and then straight into breakneck speed. It just adds a little bit more culture to the music. If I want to be that sort of wanky about it, but it's a really great track. If we were going to release a single off this album, it would be Raise the Dead, because it's the one that you could easily sell. Not that you want to, this is not the kind of album that went out to make, go platinum and do stadiums. By no means. If Bathory got that high, God forbid, I would want them to have that kind of fame, but it would ruin this sound, this it's mine, underground, I listen to it, you don't kind of feel, this kind of niche, which I love about extreme black metal. It has that kind of that sort of feeling that I got when I first heard. I remember when I very first heard bands like Marillion. Actually, I mean, nothing like it, but I remember thinking, oh God, no one else listens to this. It's just me, right? Although my mate Justin loves them as well, but it was just us. It was like we'd be in school and we only listen to this. You're listening to Kylie Minogue and Pet Shop Boys, and we've got this. Like when I first heard Iron Maiden, when I first heard Number of the Beast, I remember thinking, this is me. This is right up my street. I'm a horror movie fan. I love the darker side of life when I was younger. I still do, to be honest. And this sort of stuff just was right. And I wouldn't want it to be on everyone's lips. I think it would spoil it for me. And I know that's a petty thing and a small thing, and it's jealous. I want them to be famous. Of course they are famous, and I want them to make millions. Of course I do. They deserve it. But a little bit of me is like, no, this is my band. It's like my love for the band Heads for the Dead. You can listen to episodes I've recorded about them. And I've interviewed the lead singer. You look at their Spotify listening and there's like 600 downloads a month or something, compared to, say, like Ozzy Osbourne has got 1,500,000 a month or whatever. But that doesn't make them any less valid musicians, in my point of view. In fact, I quite love them even more for that fact. But anyway, let's move on to the final track, the final proper track on the album, which is War. Let's end the album the way we started, with absolute din. This is a brilliant way to finish the album. Come in as a deer in headlights, finish by you're flat on the road, the car's gone over you, you're looking up, and all you can see is the blood red headlights streaming off into the distance. You know, it's knocked you over, and then it's sped off. It is absolutely insane. Just like the first two, completely bonkers, people. Bonkers, bonkers, bonkers. It's punctuated by just blast beats, bass and tom hits, cymbal work. It's just one cacophonous guitar refrain all the way through, brutal bass just bringing it up, and then of course Quorthon's amazingly grotesque but beautifully poignant and perfect vocal for this album. I'll get you the lyric. Again, it goes at 2 minutes and 15 seconds, okay? So it's not a big one to end on, but it's a really cracker to take your breath away. The bells of war doth chime tonight, and the heavens shake with fear. The earth cometh to the sky in flames. The battle is ever near. The troops of hell tonight they storm, the walls they also so despise. Heaven's gates are closing in, the night's filled with cries. War, war, war. A crack of thunder, a smell of death. The wind of mayhem blows. Heaven in its final breath, and God looses all control. Prayers for mercy, cries for help. We won't stop the blasphemy. Our troops emerge the sacred throne, and the victory is incomplete. Victory is complete. War, war, war. Again, brilliant. Short, sharp. It's using imagery that's, again, gates of hell, 7 gates of hell, gates of heaven. It has that real battle of light and dark. The whole album has that battle of light and dark thing. And it's what makes rock and roll. It's what makes heavy metal so good for me. It's like the devil has the best music, does he not? Of course he does. Of course he does. And so, that the fight between dark and light, the eternal struggle, is something that fascinates a lot of people. And this one, yes, it's not high art. You're not going to walk away from this album. And I know there's a lot of listeners to this program will go and will go and listen to it and will struggle, or will go, no, I'm not into that, and you'll turn it off. Which I really ask you listeners not to do so. Do give it the 20 odd minutes, 26 minutes and 52 seconds it deserves. It doesn't hang around. It's not taking you all day. But you might find little bits and pieces in this music that make you go, hey, I want to listen to more of this kind of stuff. You might do. You never know. And if you're a big fan of this band and this album, I hope I've sort of re-sparked your love for it, or given you some information you didn't know before. That's enough for me this week. I'm going to go now and listen to some Iron Maiden. Bless you, Paul Diano. I hope you're up there listening, playing, being raucous. If you feel so inclined, please do head to my Patreon page. That's Patreon/Heavy Metal Tones podcast, all one word. That's Patreon/Heavy Metal Tones podcast, all one word. To become a roadie. For that, you get, for $3 a month, $3 Australian dollars a month, you get early, you get the no ads, and you get behind the scene videos. And soon I'm going to be looking to do early access as well, if I can pull my finger out and get these recorded in the time I want to get them recorded. Some really good episodes coming up. I've just booked in my 200th episode to record with someone. For the 200th episode will be Christmas Day. That's going to be an absolute corker. I'm so looking forward to doing that. I'm actually recording that this week. Actually, I've got to pull my finger out and start doing some research. Anyway, enough for me. I've gone over the hour, as I always do. Keep rocking and rolling. Enjoy this album. Play it in the dark. Let it scare you. It's only rock and roll. Keep telling yourself, it's only rock and roll. It's only rock and roll. It's only rock and roll. It's only rock and roll.
In the new book, Brothers, Alex Van Halen shares his personal story of family, friendship, music, and brotherly love, and a remarkable tribute to his beloved brother and bandmate, Ed. Brothers by Alex Van Halen is on sale now in hardcover, ebook, and digital audio.
More than 125,000 podcasts trust Acast to connect them with their audience. Your brand can speak to your perfect audience too by advertising with Acast. We're home to the biggest names in podcasting, reaching millions of engaged listeners who can only be accessed through Acast. From true crime to comedy, finance to fitness, your next customer's favorite podcast is an Acast show. Your audience is already here. Speak to them with Acast. Visit go.acast.com/ads to get started today.